What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports. Sorry I missed the March Madness episode. I've had a very crazy, busy week and unfortunately did not get a chance to do it like I did last year. But if you go over to Twitter, I will have all of it there for you, and I think I'm going to have a good March predicting things. So make sure you head over to X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and check that out. But don't worry, guys, I still have an episode for you this week. And this episode is what you can always rely on me to hit. Just like you can rely on me to do the NFL Weekly Series, I have the NASCAR Weekly Series for you. And this week is one of my favorite tracks on the schedule. So without further ado, let's get into it. Some storylines coming out of Las Vegas going into Darlington. First of all, Denny Hamlin breaks the tie with Kevin Harvick. Coming into this week, they were tied 10th all time on the NASCAR wins list at 60. Denny Hamlin gets a win at Vegas to make it 61, officially pushing Kevin Harvick out of the top 10 and putting Denny Hamlin into a solo 10th. Toyota's hot start to the season remains. They have now won 4 of the first 5 races, and they have a lot of top 5s, and they had some good speed this weekend. Toyota keeps going. Chevy, 5 races into the season, still does not have a win. They did at least bring some speed this week. I'll be interested to see when Chevy gets their first win. It can't be too much longer, right? Mistakes prove costly. Denny was still able to get the win, but missed out on some extra stage points that could become very important in this points format. Ty Gibbs, Chase Briscoe speeding. The JGR cars love speeding on pit road this week. I wonder if they got something wrong. But that mistake cost Chase Briscoe, somebody who was deep in points, a lot of stage points and a lot of track positions, still finished 8th. Cost him a lot of points. It cost Gibbs some stage points. It cost Denny probably some stage points. And there's just a lot of pit road mistakes this week. The JGR cars are the ones that jumped off the page. But a lot of pit road mistakes led to a lot of, shall we say, issues for a wide variety of drivers and teams. Have to clean that up regardless of the team you're on. There's some suspensions this week with the 48 team. But all kinds of mistakes, whether it's mechanical failures that should be happening, whether it's pit road mistakes, not loosening a tire, speeding on pit road, not making it through inspection. Like, the teams have got to start cleaning up these mistakes because it's not the win and you're in era anymore. You have to be fighting for points every week. And the ones that can do that the best are going to be in it at the end. And there's been a lot of big name teams and even some small name teams that want to upset the apple cart. A lot of mistakes being made. Can't have it. Do the former teammates Ross Chastain and Suarez have beef? They got together on pit road. Looked like it could have led to a fight, but NASCAR, as they've been doing a lot lately, breaks the fight up pretty quickly. And no real fight is there to be had. Chastain and Suarez have both made some interesting comments. They're both obviously former teammates at Trackhouse, and they were for years. And the whole situation just seems like something that clearly is going on behind the scenes. There's clearly a souring situation. They've seen each other a lot on the track this year. I didn't see anything crazy that happened at Vegas, but there was some interaction on the track. And anytime they're around each other, I would be ready for fireworks because I don't think either of them is going to be cutting the other one a break. And like I said, I do think there's some genuine beef between these two. But you know what? NASCAR should embrace it. Rivalries are good for the sport. NASCAR conflict is good for NASCAR. Maybe they should embrace the fact that these two former teammates clearly have something going on and, let it be a rivalry. Obviously, you have to maintain order, but there's nothing wrong with a rivalry. The news also broke this week. Unfortunately, after missing the last 2 races, Alex Bowman is now going to be out at least 3 more weeks with his vertigo and some of his lasting complications with head trauma. The most important thing for Bowman now is not thinking about the playoffs. Even if he does return, he probably doesn't make them. The important thing now for Bowman is making sure he's healthy and getting back, should that be what he wants to do. At least in my opinion. But it is a sad story, in my opinion, nonetheless, that he is out. You never want to see anybody have to miss time. And then last but not least, a new package for Darlington. I talked about it a little bit over the last couple weeks. People have been talking about after the Phoenix race and running higher horsepower, no diffuser, different tire packages, that the tire fall off is real. Well, Darlington will chew away at those tires. Darlington is already a super loose track known for hitting the wall. This could be an absolutely insane race with this new package. I think it could mean chaos. You know who your normal contenders are, but will it still be the same list of normal contenders if all the chaos? I think we could get there's a potential. Now, these teams do a lot of research, and if the teams did the research and they hit it right, then we'll, status quo will maintain. But there's a potential that there's a lot of chaos this week, and I'll just leave it at that. I will be watching for chaos because I think chaos is interesting. But yeah, there's tires seem like they're going to be of grave importance this week, and I'm excited to see what that means for the race. Let's get into some next-gen history at Darlington. There's been 8 races. In 2022, Joey Logano won the spring, and Eric Jones, his most recent win, won in the fall. In 2023, Hendrick Motorsports swept Darlington, William Byron winning the spring, Kyle Larson winning the fall. 2024 was a Ford sweep with Brad Keselowski winning in the spring and Chase Briscoe with that memorable final win for Stewart-Haas Racing in the fall. And then last year was a Joe Gibbs Racing sweep with Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe winning in the spring and fall. Only one driver has won multiple races in the next gen era at Darlington, and that is Chase Briscoe winning the last 2 Southern 500s. However, Chase Briscoe, it's not normal you see somebody that has won 2 races at a track and they're not top 5 in average finish. In fact, the person who has the best average finish at Darlington has not won here in the next gen era, and that's Tyler Reddick with an average finish of 9.6. These high average finishes on an intermediate track tells you just how difficult Darlington is. I'll be interested to see how many Darlington stripes we get at the Lady in Black this weekend. I think there's going to be a high rate of caution. But I digress. Tyler Reddick at 9.6. Denny Hamlin at 9.9, the only 2 drivers averaging a top 10 finish. William Byron at 10.6. Christopher Bell at 12. And Joey Logano at 12.1. A lot of the big names. A lot of the best teams you see at the front. That's normally what happens at Darlington. Most top 5s. Tyler Reddick, 5 out of the 8 races, he has a top 5. 4 drivers tied at 3 top 5s. William Byron, Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin, all tied at 3 and 2nd there. And then 6 drivers tied at 2 top 5s. Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Eric Jones may be a sleeper here, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, and Chase Elliott. And then when you expand it to most top 10s, Tyler Reddick, the current points leader, 6. 4 drivers are tied at 5, and Chris Buescher, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, and Bubba Wallace. And then 4 drivers tied at 4, and Christopher Bell, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, and Chase Elliott. Again, a lot of the big names, a lot of the big teams are who consistently run well here. And even with the new package, you got to think there's going to be at least some of that this weekend. So with some history, who are my favorites? Well, I did something I rarely do, and I put Joe Gibbs Racing as a favorite over Hendrick. Look, Kyle Larson and William Byron are always fast here. I think they're going to be able to run in the top 5 if they want to, but I think Joe Gibbs Racing is a slight favorite. Denny, despite the next-gen stats, I still think is the best driver at Darlington in the series. Chase Briscoe dominated this race last fall and has won 2 of the last 3 races. Christopher Bell, it's only a matter of time before he gets his first win here. And to me, that's 3 drivers to 2 drivers, Joe Gibbs to Hendrick, that I can see running in the top 5 or are likely to. And because of that, I'm going to give the edge to Joe Gibbs narrowly over Hendrick Motorsports. And then 23XI is right there. Tyler Reddick, very, very good at this track. He's got to get his first win here at some point. And Bubba Wallace usually finds a way to run to get top 10s, at least run close to it. And I expect no less from Bubba Wallace and 23XI. I think 23XI, that Gibbs Association, not out of question that they could be in victory lane this week. Number 4, RFK I have over Penske. RFK 4, Penske 5. I know Joey Logano is usually good at Darlington, but that's all I trust in Team Penske. Ryan Blaney ran well here last spring, but Darlington historically is not one of the tracks Blaney is consistent at. He has a lot of tracks that he is consistently good at. Darlington has not been that. Now, obviously, Ryan Blaney is the type of driver, he's always a threat to win. It's never a shocker when you see him run up front. But based off of historical precedent, I trust RFK a little bit more. Brad Keselowski has won here in the next gen. Chris Buescher has run very well here in the next gen, and I think Chris Buescher is knocking on the door at getting his first career win at Darlington. And I trust Ryan Preece. If you're stacking it 3 drivers to 3 drivers between these two teams, I think I trust Ryan Preece more than Austin Cindric at Darlington in specific, and I trust Ryan Preece to save tires better than Austin Cindric. So give me RFK with the slight edge over Team Penske as a favorite this week and as the Ford team favorite. Driver rankings, Tyler Reddick, number 1. He's hot. He's number 1 in the points, has a good lead. He's stacking together good finishes. He hasn't won here in the next gen, but he has the best average finish, the most top 5s, the most top 10s. He's consistent. He's going to get that win eventually. I'm going to say, with everything that's happened at the start of the year for him, Tyler Reddick gets it done this week, followed by Denny Hamlin looking to go back-to-back at a track he loves in Darlington. It's a good sign to have speed at intermediates. Now, Vegas and Darlington are 2 very, very different tracks, but they're still intermediates. This is a new package, and if it comes down to tire saving like a lot of drivers think it is, Denny's pretty good at that. Give me Denny number 2. Kyle Larson, for a lot of the same reasons Denny Hamlin. They're both incredibly talented drivers. They both can save. Kyle Larson has won here before. Kyle Larson 3rd. William Byron has won here before and maybe would have a second win if it wasn't for Joey Logano putting him into the wall in 2022 to win here. William Byron, I expect to see some speed out of. They've been getting faster and faster every race. William Byron is my 4th favorite. Chase Briscoe, I have at 5. Had a bad spring race here, but then had a good fall race. Chase Briscoe seems to bring speed most weekends. I don't know how I feel about him in a tire-saving race. They seem to have the last package figured out. We'll see what happens with this package. But for now, his history here, I'll give Chase Briscoe the 5th best odds of winning. Closely behind him, Christopher Bell. You could even argue Christopher Bell deserves to be ahead of him. Bell and his team have been much more consistent this year. They're getting the finishes. They're in a much better spot on points. They just don't have a win at Darlington. But this could be the week it happens. Christopher Bell, incredibly talented driver. Number 6. Joey Logano thrives in chaos. He won the first next gen race here, and it's well noted how his team finds a way to get finishes they don't deserve. They're not afraid to take gambles. They thrive in chaotic races. And I think that the rumors and what the drivers are expecting this week could feed right into that element of where Joey Logano is so excellent. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Joey Logano running up front all day. Chris Buescher, I've already talked about a little bit, but I'm going to put him at number 8 on my favorites to win Darlington. Chris Buescher runs well here. RFK has a win here. RFK seems to be fast. Chris Buescher's Mr. Consistency. I expect to see Chris Buescher running in the top 10 this week. Ross Chastain is barely on this list. He has good runs at Darlington. He's a good driver at Darlington. Trackhouse, I think. I'm still not sold on their intermediate speed yet this year. I do think Ross Chastain is not afraid to do what it takes to win. I don't hate Chastain in a tire-saving race. For now, Ross Chastain will hang on into the top 10 despite Trackhouse's struggles last week. They were fast at Phoenix. And then number 10, a dark horse you don't see a lot on here. Eric Jones has a win here, was really, really fast last fall, maybe even faster than Chase Briscoe, the guy who dominated the race. Eric Jones, something about Darlington he loves, and I think he's a dark horse. They don't always have qualifying speed in that car, but they always seem to matriculate to the front. This race could have chaos, which could play right into their hands. Give me Eric Jones as a dark horse favorite. And then I almost had Bubba Wallace there. I do expect Bubba Wallace to run well, and he's almost kind of tied with Eric Jones in my head for odds to win this week and where they're going to run. But I gave the nod to Eric Jones because he has a win and was super fast here in the most recent race. And now for the power rankings. Tyler Reddick obviously is still won the first 3 races of the season, has good finishes in the 2 races he didn't win, has had speed at every track. Big points lead. Tyler Reddick won. Last week's race winner, Denny Hamlin at 2, slowly working his way up the point standings into the top 5 now. Denny Hamlin obviously won a race. Give me Denny Hamlin number 2. Kyle Larson at 3. I don't think their finish was indicative of how good their car was. They were really fast at the beginning of the race and then ended up only finishing 7th. I think they had a top 5 car. I think Larson loves this track. He's good on points. I think Larson brings some speed this week. I think Larson is recovering from having some wrecks to start the season. Kyle Larson 3rd in my power rankings. Bubba Wallace still 2nd in points, had a good run last week at Vegas, got some points, and they're going to a track where he's going to be incredibly confident. Bubba Wallace 4th in the power rankings. Ryan Blaney didn't have a great run at Vegas, led some laps on strategy, but still didn't finish outside the top 10. He's still good on points. He did win 2 weeks ago, and I think that this is a good opportunity for him to get a better finish at Darlington than maybe most people expect out of him. Give me Ryan Blaney 5th. I did drop him a little bit, but not too much. And he could easily, in my mind, go right back up this list. Chase Elliott finished 2nd. Chase Elliott, Mr. Consistency, finding a way. This was definitely felt like this week was the week he's had the fastest car, the most race winning speed. Couldn't quite take advantage of it, but still had a good points day. Chase Elliott is one of the Mr. Consistencies in the Cup Series. That's why he's good on points. Chase Elliott in 6th. Christopher Bell, it feels disrespectful to have him down here, but a lot of the guys in front of him are good on points and are showing speed. Christopher Bell is showing tons of speed. The race between like 3 and 8 for me is super, super tight in this power rankings race. You could just as much have them in any order right now, in my opinion. So Christopher Bell drew the short stick. He's at 7, but I think he could easily be at 3 or maybe even 2 with a win. And he's pretty good on points as well. William Byron in 8, led some laps last week at Vegas, going to a track that he likes. Again, he's started working his way towards the front in points. 1 win does so much for you. William Byron is a threat this week. William Byron still in the top 10 at number 8, part of that cluster of drivers I just mentioned. Chris Buescher's been Mr. Consistency, and because of that, he's in the top 10. He's good on points. They're going to a track he likes. Not much else to say. Chris Buescher, Mr. Consistency, Mr. Consistency, Mr. Consistency. I expect no less this week. Ty Gibbs with a fantastic run, stacked back-to-back weeks of having good speed, and now he's top 10 in points. Ty Gibbs looking like he's on one of the better streaks of his career as of late, stacking points, having speed. Let's see what he can do at Darlington this weekend if he can continue to do so. Chase Briscoe falls out of the top 10. Looks like he had some speed, got a top 10 to stop some of the points bleeding that he had, gained some spots in the points with that top 10. Didn't get any stage points after an awful error, pit road speeding error. Then they can never get back on the lead lap until towards the end of the race. But he did get the 8th place finish. Still not inspiring confidence out of that 19 team right now. Briscoe falls even further to 11th. Joey Logano, number 12, did not have a good race at Vegas. He's still okay on points. Didn't have a good week. Needs a good week this week. Joey Logano falls to 12. Brad Keselowski had a good week. Found a way to take a slow car in practice and qualifying and drive it up towards the top 10 this week. Had a solid points day. He would be in the playoffs that they started today, going to a track that he has had success at. Brad Keselowski, I have number 13 and rising on this list. Ross Chastain down to 14. He's outside the top 20 points. Didn't have a good week this week at Vegas at all. Never seemed like a threat for a top 10. Not a good week for Trackhouse. This needs to be a rebound week for Chastain and Trackhouse overall. I'll be interested to see what happens, but if another bad week happens, I expect to continue to see Ross Chastain drop on this list. Ryan Preece, number 15, another guy that I think is stacking together decent finishes, not having any terrible points days. and trying to find a way to stay around the back end of that top 10 during races. Can he do so this week? He's okay on points again, hanging out around that playoff cut line. Preece, though, it does come from small tracks, does come from that tire saving. That could be beneficial to him this week. Ryan Preece at 15. McDowell, this back end of the power rankings is kind of not very inspiring, so I'm not going to say too much about these guys. Michael McDowell didn't have a great week, but a lot of people behind him didn't either, so he stays at 16. Shane Van Gisbergen continues his drop now that we're off of those first three tracks. He looked okay, decent at Phoenix, did not look good at Vegas, and Darlington is a difficult track. He drops to 17. I'll be interested to see if he can start resurrecting. Maybe that's not the right word, but try and get some momentum at Darlington, a very difficult oval this week. Van Gisbergen down to 17. Zane Smith inspired a little bit of confidence last week, had a good qualifying, had a decent run. Zane Smith, not off to a bad start, has some good finishes, and is running near the front more frequently. Zane Smith up to 18. Carson Hocevar still hanging out at the bottom half of the top 20 in 19th. And Daniel Suarez falls to 19th, falls to 20th, I should say, after a rough week, a controversy-filled week. Spire Motorsports had their worst race of the season last week. Can they rebound this week at Darlington? That's all I have for you today. It's a fantastic weekend for sports. March Madness going crazy. I'm sure it's off to a good start. Everybody needs to be watching your brackets. Baseball is starting in less than a week. Next Thursday, opening day. It might be Wednesday. But baseball, almost here. The MLB season's almost here. March Madness is here. NHL and NBA are coming down to the wire. Some tight playoff races. Got some NASCAR this week. Plenty of action for you guys to sit on your couch and watch sports for 12 hours a day, which I highly, highly recommend. It's one of the best times of the year for sports. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Please, please, please like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.